Diddy has been accused of hiring minors for a freak-off party. And this lawsuit is probably one of the worst lawsuits that Diddy has ever been hit with, and we can assume the feds are probably definitely going to have questions about this lawsuit. And we know that Diddy thought he got a huge win yesterday when his lawsuit with him and Jay-Z was dismissed, but Diddy actually got hit with 5 lawsuits yesterday as well. I already covered 3 of them, so we are going to go over this one and one other one that he also got hit with. This lawsuit was filed by a Jane Doe accusing Diddy of paying for a number of underage girls, including herself, to be used for gratification of himself and his friends at a party in Miami. And since this is the same charges that Diddy is being hit with criminally, you can bet that the feds are going to have a lot of questions about this civil lawsuit from this Jane Doe. This Jane Doe alleges that she was sold into the world of trafficking at age 12, and for the next 5 years, she remained under strict control of these traffickers and pimps who transported her and other girls around the country for the gratification of other people. She alleges that she was frequently kept under the influence of a large amount of substances in order to ensure her compliance and inability to escape. She alleges that in or around 2020, when she was only 15 years old, her boss took her and one or more of the other girls to Miami, Florida. She claims that once she arrived in Miami, she was taken to a large building that was similar to a warehouse where there was a large party being hosted, and she alleges that she eventually learned the person that was hosting the party was Diddy. She said it became quickly apparent to her that the purpose of the party was for physical activities, and she said that Diddy had allegedly arranged and paid for her and the other girls to be brought to this party. She claims that at this party, Diddy made them available for these physical activities. This Jane Doe alleges that she recalls Diddy making an announcement to his guests and then made a toast to start the party. She said that she had been given substances for this event to keep her controlled and somewhat sedated, and was taken to a curtained-off area with red and dark blue or black lights containing a bed in the middle. She claims that over the next several hours, she was forced to have physical relations with approximately 20 different men, all guests of Diddy, one after the other. The curtained-off area in which she was confined to was next to another curtained-off area with another bed, which she could see through the curtains. She allegedly saw Diddy having physical relationships with a Latina girl who she estimated to be 12 or 13 years old and who had been in the same group that she arrived in. She claims that she could not see where this girl was taken to once Diddy was finished with her, but after he was allegedly finished having physical relationships with this young Latina girl, Diddy drank and watched others having these physical relations, including watching the men having these relationships with this Jane Doe. She claims that after the party was over, her and the other girls were transported again to another location by their boss, and she remained in the control of these bosses for 2 more years. She was ultimately able to escape this world when an undercover officer, as part of a sting operation, found her in a hotel room in Virginia and arrested the man who was controlling her at that time. This next lawsuit is filed by a Jane Doe who is claiming that she was essayed by Diddy's bodyguards. This Jane Doe alleges that in or around 2002, she was enjoying a night out with a few friends at a lounge near Times Square in New York, and around 3 a.m., her and her friends decided to call it a night and part ways. While she was walking to her train stop to go home, she was approached by a black SUV driven by 2 men dressed in all black. 2 women were in the back seat of the SUV, and they began calling to her through the window. She claims that after speaking with these women briefly, she learned that they were promoting a party for Diddy and that they could get her in if she wanted to go. She was impressed by their story, and she felt flattered that they wanted her to come along, so she agreed to get in. The SUV took her and these other women to an upscale hotel near Times Square, where her and the other women were ushered in through the lobby up to a suite. She said as soon as she got to the suite, she met Diddy as he introduced himself to all the guests and welcomed them to the party. She said she went about her time enjoying herself at the event and exploring the different rooms in the suite and introducing herself to various people there. Throughout this time at this party, there was waiters that brought her pre-made drinks, and that she was always handed her drinks rather than letting her select her own drink from the tray or pour it herself. As time went on, she began to feel very dizzy and disoriented, and she asked the women who invited her there if there was somewhere that she could sit down. And then she was ushered into a room into the suite that she had not been in yet. She said that this room was large and contained a large number of people hooking up. She alleged that she saw Diddy in the room surrounded by what appeared to be bodyguards dressed in black jeans and long sleeve black shirts. She said the two women sat her down on the couch and they joined her. And then shortly after, two men from the front seat of the SUV joined them. She said that she noticed that they were dressed the same as the bodyguards that were surrounding Diddy. These men began to engage with the women physically, and the other two women were receptive to it, but she was not. She said that she protested clearly through both her words and her actions, but she was becoming increasingly disoriented, likely to the drinks that she was given. She found it more and more difficult to physically resist these men. She alleged that these men removed her top and began touching on her while exposing themselves and attempting to force her to touch their private areas. They began trying to undo her pants, and she managed to wiggle away and said that she did not want them to do that. She said in a loud voice, loud enough to attract attention from others in the room. She said that this was the only point that the unwanted advances from these men stopped, and they began to focus on other women instead. She said because of the effects of whatever substance was given to her, she laid there for an uncertain amount of time until she began to regain more control over her body. She then put her clothes back on and attempted to leave, but the men that attacked her asked her to stay. She said that she refused, and then the men asked her to see her ID and said that she could not leave until she showed it to them. These men took a picture of her ID and then told her they knew who she was and where she lived in a threatening manner, and that they offered her and the other two girls money before allowing them to leave. And the other two women accepted this money, but she did not. She felt very violated and unsafe, and she made her way out of the hotel as quickly as possible and eventually made it home. But she remains anxious about what happened because the men knew all of her identifying information and they worked for Diddy. And she is basically holding Diddy responsible, saying that she believes that these were bodyguards that worked for Diddy at the time. These are 2 out of the 5 lawsuits that Diddy was hit with just yesterday. I will add all 5 of these to my Patreon at KadishaLynn if you're interested in reading the whole thing for yourself. But y'all, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments.